Hi all, welcome to this latest edition of Off the Post. Plenty to kind of delve into over the last week of football. As we were recording this, Tuchel and Tedesco have been sacked by Chelsea and Red Bull Leipzig respectively, so we're going to quickly delve into that, which is quite interesting that two managers basically sacked in this morning's deals, as it were. But other than that, obviously transfers are still kind of going like loans, but yeah, there's a lot kind of kicking off, as it were. But obviously Tuchel potentially could end up at Leipzig, but just with being, depending how they want to play out, but obviously they might think, well, Tedesco was kind of seen as what they thought a strong set of hands, but it's not been. While Potter's obviously been touted for the Chelsea job right off the bat, but yeah, in terms of like how business has been kind of going around, obviously just now, like some of the transfers, like to talk like some of the transfers, like Zinchenko's an interesting one. He just joined Olympiacos for like just shy of £2 million, and he's already went to Standard Liège on loan. I'm not sure what's going on there, to be honest. Certainly a bit of an interesting one, but I think unless you kind of follow, like pinpoint what's going on, because what I'm noticing is a lot of the teams that are getting the transfers done just now are Belgian League, Turkish, Greek, Saudi, A-League, in terms of transfers. Like Chadley, for example, he's went to Westerlo. As I said, Zinchenko at Standard Liège, Kouassi, formerly of Trabzonspor, now it's Karagümrük. Valon Beresha's went to Melbourne City. But there's Piccini, who's always been, I always thought was a half decent defender. He's now at Magdeburg, which is kind of a strange transfer, I suppose. But some teams might want to be thinking we've got to take a chance on him. But as I said, Russian League still getting a bit of business. Obviously done. Raul Vlut, who used to play for Heracles, who had a serious crash like last year, year before, caused a lot of controversy. He went to Astana, now he's in Ural, probably trying to get further away from the trouble. Nolito went to Ibiza. There'll be a few jokes made out of that one. Christian Atsu's now went to the Turkish League with Hatayspor, former Newcastle winger. Karim Hafez went from Yeni Malatyaspor to Pyramids in the Egyptian League. There's like Barclays obviously went to Nice, that was one of those transfers last week. Lucason's went to Maccabi Tel Aviv. Rafinha obviously went to Al Arabi on a free transfer. That was like start of the week. For those that may have missed, Anderlecht signing Jan Vertonghen. Mubarak Wakaso joining Eupen. Interesting bit of business there. Obviously there's still a lot of free agents kicking about. Michy Batshuayi obviously joining Fenerbahce for 3.1 million. Marcelo joining Olympiacos, but there's still a lot of free agents still like around, which is quite startling. There's a lot of free agents that can still be signed. Like as far as I believe that like Denier's still a free agent, so there must be something about Denier that's putting teams off. Like I couldn't say what, but there must be a little bit on that. I know Nottingham Forest were looking at Serge Aurier, but that's gone a bit quiet by the sounds of it. Zagadou, formerly of Dortmund, obviously he's been a free agent all summer. An interesting one obviously is Diego Costa. He was obviously potentially going to go to Wolves, but he's not got his like the points because obviously he's not been playing this year, so he was like 2 points off or something, so not 100% sure what will come of that. But you've still got, like, there's a lot of players that, namely in like the French league especially, like Zeka, Dijabral, Sidibe, Kalojazak, they're all like free agents, all like varying levels of experience, and like regardless where it be, say if it's my case, like from like a Hibs case or even a Scottish football's case or team in like say England or abroad, I'd be saying to myself, when you look at some of the players that are available, I'd be saying, as I said, from Denier, Aurier, Zeka, Zagadou, CDB, Edgar Eyes, Arias, Labiad, Quateng, Adel Tarat, Maksimovic, you like Ryan Thomas, William, Sean Morrison, these guys are all injured till like the end of the year, I believe, so a lot of people get put off by them. Nicholas de Preville, like depending who you like, where you are in your respective league, I'd be saying to myself, why not look at these players? Just say to yourself, even though they're like, according to like say transfer market or anything like that, they might say, oh, their market value is like £2 million or £3 million, but you say, well, they're a free agent, depending what a team needs. So, and we'll go with say like a Celtic or Rangers case. I would say if I was like Rangers, I would say defenders. So, and maybe the odd mid-tierer there. So why not look at, in Rangers' case, why not look at Maksimovic? Like, yes, he's 30 years old, but or Edgar I, and say, well, he's a free agent, ask him what he's wanting for a wage, take a chance. Like Celtic, for example, with Denier, why not go for him? He used to play for them on loan, so he's got a bit of an attachment to the club, and he's a free agent. All you're literally having to pay is his wages, get him in. If he's want to be like playing in Europe, playing in Scotland, good times, or depending where he's got ambitions of. But like there's plenty players with that could play in the Championship, that could play, like I know if I was like Hibernian, like from a Hibs case, I would like look at Tom Carroll just for a bit of ambition. Would I look at Massimo Luongo? I probably would. Like I wouldn't exactly. I know Hibs fans have talked about Rogic, but it also comes down to what we need. Like there's free agents just kicking about. Like Izquierdo, he's probably still a half decent winger. Like for some players it could be a language barrier, but they're still half decent players, and you'd expect somebody like an Izquierdo to kind of run riot in a league like Scotland if given the chance. So that's the way I would look at it. But yeah, that's kind of where transfers and all that are kind of kicking about. Obviously, in terms of like the last week of football, been pretty full on with like the Premier League having 2 games since. Man City running riot against Nottingham Forest, 6-0. That was just like the Haaland show. Haaland just continuing to run riot. PSV obviously running riot as well against Volendam 7-1. Yeah, there's like leagues aren't slowing down on the goals front, like not at all. And like it's just regardless of where you go around the world, whether it be Italy, whether it be MLS, whether it be any of the English divisions or China, or like like the lowest game in a league you're seeing just now is like 4-0 at times. In terms of like how, like just to kind of reiterate that point as well, in one of the Friday night games in the Eredivisie, finished 4-3 to Utrecht. Also Feyenoord had the same situation against Go Ahead Eagles in their respective games. So teams are literally hammering people like left, right and centre, Bruges Derby, 4-0 Club Bruges. It's just like games everywhere. It's just, you almost say to yourself, like 5-2 lead, Brentford over Leeds, sorry. You think to yourself just now, what is causing this to happen? Just so much just now. It's like teams just can't. You think, can they not defend? Like 5-0 Lyon v Angers. Like, you just kind of question it really, and people would say, is it bad defending? Was it the attackers on form? Like Celtic and Rangers was 4-0. A lot of people probably would not have said that at the start of the day, but it's, as I said, it's just a theme, like 4, 5, anything that goes beyond 5, when it's like 6 or 7, you then do start saying, what, it's like, you do kind of question it a little bit, and you just kind of scratch your head thinking, why is this happening? It seems to be happening, in my opinion, more this season across like Europe and around the world. More so this season, I think. I don't know why, unless we're noticing it more. That's maybe what it could be, where teams are winning by 4, 5, 6 goals. Because it was like Brighton won 5-2 on the Sunday game. Just to kind of further emphasise the point, Ferencváros were 6 now. Obviously, Walsik won 5-2 against Excelsior. To kind of tie that, and Valencia was 5-1. Villarreal 4-0. Yeah, it's just, honestly, you could go to the extent where if you're one of those types that had a spreadsheet and you literally said, right, here's like every league in the world that's playing just now, and say for every time a game had 4 or more goals, what I mean is you would do 4 or more goals if it was, say one team scored 4 or more goals, so you'd maybe put an X. If there was more than 4 goals, but it was like a draw, or it was like, say, a 3-1 or a 3-2, sorry, or whatever, so it was like a 5-goal game, then you maybe put a circle. If it was say like a 4-4 or a 5-3, you might put like a triangle or something. You do various shapes or whatever, various colours in each part of your spreadsheet, and before you maybe know it, you might see a trend. So you might say, well, in England, in the Premier League, every week just now there is a game, there's at least one game every week that has over 4 goals. And people might then think, from a betting point of view, you might say, well, one game over 4 goals or something, and you can just keep doing that bet every week. And it's just like, it's great to, like, it's good to see high scoring games, because you get games in some leagues where it's 0-0. There was one game I watched, was it last week or the week before, and it was 0-0. I think there was something like 5 shots in the entire game, and I don't think any of them were on target. It was an absolutely abysmal game of football to watch. I think I turned off in the first half. It was that bad. It was like nobody was trying, they weren't being aggressive. It was just, we don't want to shoot. I'm like, well, shoot, you've got to score, and like the teams weren't actually doing it, and you're like, you just kind of questioned it really. I'd have to have a think what league it was. But obviously, the kind of like the main football for European fans this week, obviously Champions League started back last night. Dynamo Zagreb got a result against Chelsea. That may have helped necessitate the Chelsea sacking of Tuchel, but I think he was gone anyway. Something just gives me that feeling. A few people have felt that same mindset as well. But If you're sacking him like now, why did you not sack him before deadline day? You've let him sign these players, so it then starts to beg belief. Did Tuchel have a say in any of these signings, like Fofana, for example? So there's maybe a little bit to this. Maybe Tuchel wasn't keen on Fofana. He mainly because of the money that they were kind of spending on him. They thought maybe there's better options out there for like less money. Maybe even the Cucurella deal. You never know. He might have been like, I'm not really keen on that, or Zakaria. But yeah, no, there's definitely part of me thinks there's more to it. But see what comes of it. And obviously who comes in, who knows, nothing might even come of it at all. As per usual, it might be like it was just sacked because of bad results. But it's like Aubameyang kind of was expected to lead the line, and people were of the assumption, oh, Chelsea's going to run through Zagreb. Well, clearly showed not to be. Yes, they did have plenty of possession, plenty of shots, but they didn't make any of it count. So Zagreb done the hard work and won 1-0. Dortmund won 3-0. I think the big talking point from that game was actually before the game, apparently, where Copenhagen fans were throwing flares into the fans, like Dortmund fans' area, which was a bit naughty, to be honest. And I think I'm not sure if I've heard much more on it, but yeah, it's a bit crazy, to be honest. And just the way it goes, I suppose. In terms of how it all plays out, Benfica 2-0 v Maccabi Haifa. The theme as well last night with last night's games was players scoring cracking goals. We saw Okafor, we saw Grimaldo, we've seen the Mbappe goal from Neymar's assist. Celtic, despite losing 3-0, gained a lot of plaudits, so fair play to them. But you can be impressive all you want if you're not making your chances count, and sometimes, regardless who you're playing, if the other team takes their chances, that's what makes the difference. Real Madrid took their chances, and that's how they won 3-0. PSG won 2-1 against Juventus. The most impressive result of the night, in people's eyes, goes to Shakhtar Donetsk, winning 4-1 against Leipzig. Mudryk and Shved. What's funny about Shved is he's went from Celtic. Celtic signed him, Marian Shved, a few years ago. And what was like hype, like at the time, you thought, well, he'd been playing well in Ukrainian League with Karpaty, and you thought, an interesting transfer this, because when he was bought from Karpaty, they loaned him back for the rest of the season. He came into Celtic, never given a chance, never even given a sniff, but went to Michelin. In the end, like initially I think it was like a loan, and then like they made it like permanent in the end. But like going into this season, apparently there was a bit of disgruntledness because he was Shved apparently wanted to just push back to Ukraine. Whether that was true or not, it's a different matter. But regardless, he ended up going back to Shakhtar, and obviously last night kind of people will be then saying, well, this is what Celtic were buying, was this was a player that they had hopes for, but clearly didn't happen. But Mudryk was the one that gained all the plaudits for a goal and an assist, and as people were saying, despite all the players that Shakhtar have lost over like the last like pretty much this year, they've lost a lot of players, but they've managed to just still have a team that's able to compete against, in essence, what's supposed to be seen as one of the best teams in the Bundesliga, and the two of them are the cleaners. So fair play to them. They managed to do that, like 4-1. And what made it all the more impressive is they only had 5 shots on goal, but they had 4 goals. Makes all the difference. So definitely would say fair play to them on that. From there, obviously, AC Milan Salzburg 1-1, not the result AC Milan were hoping for, but they will just have to kind of take it from there. And then obviously Man City winning pretty comfortably 4-0. Obviously, it's like, I think what's important to say as well, that with what's going on across, like, you've got to remember as well, pretty much just now we're going to be getting that constant flow up to like the World Cup of like midweek stuff. So it's like it feels like there's no shortage every day of games to kind of sit back and enjoy, as it were. So you're never feeling kind of like regardless of what league you're watching, you've always got like European football to fall back on as well as domestics. And even with the international break, because they've still got to do qualifiers for that, there's, as I say, there's still no like daily shortage of like games across the board. Because remember, next week is when they implement like match day 2 for like the Champions League. So they're definitely going to be like interesting to see how this all kind of develops over how these match days progress, because some teams may perform differently, because obviously the games are so thick and fast. So teams maybe with stronger squad depth might perform better than those with not such strong squad depth. Obviously tonight, Lorient and Lyon play the rescheduled game from the start of the season that was missed. If you don't know, basically Lorient's pitch was basically a wreck, and this was because of like the heat wave across Europe. So Lorient couldn't play the game. It was just unsafe. So this is obviously getting played tonight at 6 o'clock. European games across the board tonight: Ajax, Rangers, Eintracht Frankfurt and Sporting are the early kickoffs. Rangers will be interesting to see how they do against more Eredivisie opposition after taking care of PSV. Ajax definitely will be a step up. Ajax will be hoping to qualify from the group, but Rangers themselves will also be realising if they can start with a win, then it puts pressure on Liverpool and Napoli, because the way Napoli are playing just now with like Osman, Kvaratskhelia, they're definitely an interesting but exciting side to watch just now. So they're definitely hopeful, and Liverpool's not firing. Despite the 9-0 game against Bournemouth, it's still hiding some flaws. So Liverpool haven't, in my eyes, put maybe their money in the right areas, maybe, like, because there's a lot of, not necessarily just dead wood, but there's a lot of areas where they need to improve. Because what's scary is that they've spent, when you look at near enough every year, they make like one kind of like deemed marquee signing, like Naby Keita for example a few years ago. That was seen as like, oh, that's a great transfer Liverpool have made, and it's just never worked. It hasn't worked really for them at all. Like there was talk of Bellingham, well, why not get him this season? That way your midfield's got deemed a major improvement. But obviously try and look at offloading players that you're like, well, that player's not going to get in the team, this player's not going to get in the team. You think about it, you try and like, if you've got money sitting in the bank doing nothing, but yeah, I'm not quite sure what's going on, as it were. But yeah, the 8 o'clock games tonight are Atletico Porto. I think Atletico may just have enough for them. With Frankfurt and Sporting, I think Sporting will have just enough. Barca pleasing, feel Barcelona will be too strong. Leverkusen Bruges is an interesting one because both obviously aren't expected to challenge for the group, and also third is what's possibly expected for them. I would say on current form, Bruges might just be the stronger of the two, but we'll see how that one plays out. Inter Bayern is definitely probably the game of the night. After obviously PSG Juventus was kind of maybe seen as last night's big game. I feel Bayern just too strong. Napoli Liverpool, another marquee game. I feel current form Napoli just maybe too strong at the moment. Liverpool just not convincing enough for me at the moment. I just feel there's more questions than answers from them. And then Tottenham and Marseille, feel Tottenham just maybe too strong for Marseille. Obviously Europa League and the Conference League all starts tomorrow as well. Quite a few big games, depending on what you deem a big game. Basically, like Fenerbahce Dynamo Kiev is an interesting one. Union Berlin Royal Union St. Galois could be an interesting one. For a number of reasons, just with how both their teams have never been in the Europa League. Obviously Union Berlin were in the Conference League last season. Zurich Arsenal, Lazio Feyenoord, Manchester United Real Sociedad. Kind of Man United Real Sociedad is probably the game of the night, I would say, in terms of who's playing. But obviously I would say, like, realistically, if I was to run through these games, like if I was someone that was doing like an accumulator of like this, I would be like Rennes to beat Larnaca, Fenerbahce just to beat Dynamo Kiev, Betis to beat HCK, Roma to beat Ludogorets despite them losing at the weekend. Quite convincingly 4-0 as well. That's another the 4-0 pile. Braga to beat Malmo, PSV to beat Bodo, Union Berlin to beat USG, Arsenal to beat Zurich, Monaco to beat Red Star Belgrade, Trabzonspor to beat Ferencvaros, Freiburg to beat Qarabag, Lazio just to beat Feyenoord. But Feyenoord at the moment very impressive, knowing they can seem to dig out a result. But Lazio very strong as well. Manchester United just to pip Sociedad, Nantes to beat Olympiacos only just, but it could easily be a draw. Sheriff to beat Ammonia, but this is another one that could easily be a draw. And Midtjylland to beat Sturm Graz, probably just as well. With the Conference League, probably the game of the night probably falls to Nice and Cologne, if I'm honest. You're kind of waiting for Besiktas to play Fiorentina to kind of next be a game that screams out to you, say, whoa, that's a game I'd quite like to watch. But even then, as if you're a fan of like just continental competition and that, some of these games may still appeal to you nonetheless, especially if you're someone that bets. You'll be someone that just goes, oh, I'll watch these games regardless, I want to put a bet on. And sometimes that's what people do. But going through it, Anderlecht to beat Silkeborg, Hapoel Beersheva to beat Austria Vienna, Cluj to beat Balkany, Fiorentina to beat RFS, Besiktas to take Hearts to the cleaners. Hearts just now haven't a clue, which is kind of startling. The way everyone was talking, Hearts, they're going to show why they're the third best team, they're going to make this group look easy, they're going to beat Zurich. Well, they're in the wrong group for a kick-off, and they've got a hard group at that. So Yeah, I think people have got to kind of watch what they say. Let the team try and do its business. If it's not clicking, then why is it not? Maybe a bit too much expectations on this season. Who knows? Or maybe some teams have maybe just found them out. You never know. As I said, some teams, as Hibs have shown, and a few of the other teams, consistency is not there at times, and that's why, like how Celtic and Rangers can win the league so comfortably, is because the rest of the league these days, the last few seasons, there's no consistency. Like Aberdeen for years were able to compete with Celtic and Rangers for so long and then fall away under McInnes, but these days, like maybe it's one season it's Hibs, one season it's Hearts, one season it's Dundee United, one season it's maybe Motherwell, one season it's Kilmarnock. It's been a yo-yo pretty much for about the last like decade or whatever, 20 years. Been near enough, there's no been like a consistent third team, as it were, in like Scottish football. And what you sometimes find is with those teams as well, that whoever's maybe sometimes finishes third, they might finish 6th or 8th the next season, or just have a bad season, and it hampers various things as well. Like you say to yourself, how can you basically be a team that maybe makes 2 finals, you finish third, but then next season you're suddenly in a relegation battle or whatever? It makes no sense. But yeah, as I said, that's just me being a football fan of Scottish football. Nice Cologne, I think, could just be a draw. Personally, I think it's one of these games that could be too tight to call. You could give Nice home advantage, but at the same time, both are quite well balanced sides. I feel Partizan to beat Slovako, Villarreal to beat Lech Poznan, Basel to beat Punic Yerevan, Alkmaar to beat Dnipro, Ghent to just beat Molde. Shamrock Rovers Deutsche Gardens could be a tricky one. Like in paper, obviously Deutsche Gardens should have enough, but Shamrock Rovers may just be up for it at home. They might make themselves hard to be at home and get draws here or there, or sneak the odd win. And if I'm actually honest, when you look at their group, these are the games, if they want to qualify, these are the games they need to win, because I feel Ghent is maybe where it's a step too far. Deutsche Gardens and Molde are beatable, if I was to be honest. And we kind of mentioned that like when we spoke about groups, as it were. Sivasspor, Slavia Prague. Current form, you would say Slavia Prague. They just seem to be scoring 6 goals just now for fun. I don't see them scoring 6 goals tomorrow night, but I feel they'll score a fair few goals regardless against Sivas. They might score a fair few against Sivasspor. Slovan Bratislava Zalgiris, I've probably just edged towards Slovan Bratislava. They were unlucky in qualifiers. Zalgiris have done well regardless. Vaduz Apollon is a tricky one, only because Vaduz have looked very, very impressive in qualifying. They've managed to grind themselves out to get to this stage, and I think they'll make themselves hard to be at home. And it goes back to the argument with Shamrock Rovers group. If Vaduz, especially with like what's important to note is Vaduz are with them being from Liechtenstein, this is the first time a European like basically Liechtenstein's never had a teammate group stage of European football. Vaduz have achieved it, and it's certainly a chance where, like in this group, we did say from the get go we felt Alkmaar will win it. Apollon, Vaduz, Dnipro will all certainly try and all fight for second. We in theory thought maybe Dnipro were the strongest, maybe from Apollon, but you never know. Vaduz could sneak second, and these are the games that they need to happen a chance. Like what's like West Ham should be comfortable against Steaua Bucharest. Like the group itself is not an easy group on paper for West Ham. They've been probably given one of the harder groups. It's also quite a well balanced group because it's West Ham, Anderlecht, Silkeborg and Steaua Bucharest. On paper, 3 of the 4 will fancy their chances of qualifying. Like Steaua Bucharest always seem to do quite well and grind out results here and there. Anderlecht probably didn't expect to be in the Conference League. They're more accustomed to either the Champions League group stages or the Europa League. And West Ham would like to go on a run, try and make amends on last season's slip up against Eintracht Frankfurt, because we could have had a Battle of Britain final with West Ham and Rangers. Didn't happen, but West Ham will certainly be looking to make amends on last season. But yeah, that's quite a well balanced, as we said, that was a well balanced group when we kind of spoke about it initially. And that's the thing, you like a well balanced group generally does make for like good viewing, because you then see yourself, well, who could qualify, who could not, because it's like Villarreal's group, for example. Villarreal, well balanced group, for, in my eyes, for second. Like, Villarreal should be seen as comfortably getting through. Austria Vienna, Hapoel Beersheva, Lech Poznan, depends how they all do. It's also important to know with Villarreal how their like European journeys have went the last few seasons, because of going from winning the Europa League, but also at the same time going a run in the Champions League where they nearly got themselves into, they nearly scuppered everybody, because of if they'd won the Champions League, I think it was scuppering quite a few teams, which is quite an interesting, like, say, statistic, as it were. But regardless, they were, as I said, they won the Europa League in 2021. As I said, last season was the semi-finals before losing at Liverpool. The scary is, a few people were saying, when you looked at the permutations, if Villarreal had made the final, it would have been scary if they'd suddenly won the the Champions League back-to-back seasons. Then they wouldn't have Conference League, but because of where they finished in the league table, then I think it made it harder on Celtic and Rangers especially. But then I think it hampered, I think the Eredivisie, I think it hampered like two or three leagues, as it were. And just the way it goes. Well, as I said, they're a very consistent team in making like Europe. These days they're a very consistent side. They have a very strong side. But yeah, we'll see how that one plays out from there. But obviously for us, I'll be keeping an eye out on everything. It'll be interesting to see how quite a lot of teams do, either in their first ever European campaign or first time in a certain competition. It will be interesting to see how it goes. Like, a lot of people really get sucked into enjoying Tuesday and Wednesday night, but then quite a few people get quite enjoyed into a Thursday night as well. One thing we're going to do in today's edition, or this week's edition, is we are going to speak with Steph, who is a Feyenoord supporter. Steph, we also speak to quite a bit in on social media, like Twitter, Discord, Twitch and whatnot. So we're going to speak with Steph. He's going to give us his thoughts on Feyenoord for the season. He's going to give us a wee bit on what he thought he's felt transfer windows went, and then also like European aspirations, because obviously Feyenoord fell just a little bit short against Roma in the Conference League final, but it'll be interesting to see how they do against their Rome rivals Lazio in match day 1, but also just what he thinks. So we'll get a chat with Steph, see what he says, and also just take it from there really, because it'll be good to kind of, as I said, we want to get fan interaction, as it were, as time goes, whether it be for European stuff, whether it be for domestics. It'd just be good to get some other opinions as well, because more than just my voice is what I'd like to hear at times as well, because like I can have